It's been a few days since I did a video, so thanks for tuning in and checking out what's going on here. You can see that I did a little bit of work with my friend Mike's help. We put the windows in. Both windows in the back are installed. The Max Air fan, I know you can't see it, that's installed. And we already made a template and cut out the side panels here. What I'll probably do is do a few of the panels, paint them, and then screw them into place. Looking like some things are taking time to do. I never thought there'd be this many decisions to make in something like this. I'd like to apologize for not having all the videos of the build, although once again I have pictures and will explain how I did the work and share the secrets I learned during my build. This video will explain insulation and wall panel installation. Here's the first thing I'd like to be clear about. Learning how to make templates and how to scribe is an important part of the process for building a camper van because nothing is square or straight. For this part of the build, cardboard was used for templates. Decisions associated with insulation are very hard to make. There are points and counterpoints for every type of insulation. After days and days of deliberating, I finally decided to take a hybrid approach and use a combination of foil back foam and fiberglass insulation. I use foil back foam on the walls around the wheel wells and at the top of the walls and ceiling. After getting advice from a guy who has had a business converting vans since the mid-70s, I decided to use fiberglass insulation for a lot of the remaining areas. I know all the stories about and understand the drawbacks, but I had to make a decision. Did I say there are too many decisions to make in building one of these things? One of the pictures shows plastic over the fiberglass. This was removed because the van sheet metal already creates one vapor barrier and the plastic creates a second, causing trapped moisture. Who knows what is right, as I read so much about this stuff that I didn't know what to believe anymore. Go figure. The places where I use foil back foam, I sprayed the cracks with great stuff, gaps and cracks foam. Spraying the ceiling was much harder to do than the walls with this stuff. As with anything, the more you do it, the better you get. I found that going slower and not trying to do everything in one pass allowed more to stick in the cracks. After much pain and anguish in decision making, I decided to use 1/4-inch sanded plywood for the wall panels. Several panels I used for my van were almost 8 feet. So I had to find cardboard that was stiff enough and long enough to make a solid template. I went to Lowe's and Home Depot stores to find out when they did appliance deliveries and found out that the first thing they did at the beginning of the day is to remove the appliances from the boxes for all deliveries that day. They normally throw these boxes out, so it's important to find out when they do this and go to the area of the store where they do this at that time. I found refrigerator boxes to be the best. The approach that worked best for me was to cut the cardboard closer to the actual size needed. I would start with a slightly larger template and scribe on it where the exact cuts had to be made. I found that the wheel wells were a challenge, but after a little trial and error, I got them really close. The good part is, once you have a good template, cutting the wood is a simple task. The best thing I found out with my Promaster is every template I made worked perfectly on the opposite wall just by reversing it. Cutting the holes in the wall panels where the windows went presented another challenge, and I'm going to share the secret I came up with to accomplish this. The trim rings around the C.R. Lawrence windows have about a 1/2-inch coverage. Cutting the wall panel so the trim ring fits and having no gaps is pretty hard. You have to be within about 1/8 of an inch, so there's no room for errors. By now, I was getting better at templating, and here's the solution I used to accomplish a task. The first thing I did was to make a window cutout inside a small rectangular template just larger than the window opening. This was carefully taped to the window with Gorilla Tape. I next cut a rectangular area out of the original wall template, just a little smaller than the outside dimensions of the rectangular window template. Next, I put the wall template in the exact place where it should go and taped it with Gorilla Tape. Now I taped the window template to the wall template and undid the Gorilla Tape that taped it to the window. Now I had the exact place where to cut the window out. If you saw my part 1 video, I mentioned doing careful measuring when cutting the windows. I was able to use the same template to cut the window on the opposite wall because my windows were less than 1/8 of an inch difference from one side to the other. Another tip I use for this process is to leave the line when cutting, so the hole is smaller than the actual trim ring. It's so much easier to cut or file with a rasp file if the hole is smaller than it should be. Remember, you can't add more wall panel if you cut the opening too large. Attaching the wall panels required some work. There are 2 rails that go horizontally the length of the van that can be used to attach the walls. One is approximately 29 7/8 to 31 9/16 inches from the floor, and the other is approximately 59 3/4 to 61 1/8 inch from the floor. These dimensions are very important to record because later they will be the points for attaching the cabinets. The top of the walls in the corner presented another problem, or rather an excellent solution. The angle of the wall is really close to 45 degrees. I decided to use 2x4 blocks that were attached with a combination of screws and SqFt 221 to mount them to the van. You can see the tops of the blocks in the pic. This is the 3rd point of attachment for cabinets. The combination of 2 screws and SqFt made for a bomber anchor. The wall panels used to cover this area were 1/4 inch plywood about 7 inches wide. I made panels for the sliding and 2 rear doors. These were pretty easy, not only because they were smaller, but because of the skills I developed by doing the other work. Trust me, you will get better as you go. To be honest, most of the stuff was so much different than anything I ever did before that I had to redo many things during the build process that I don't like to admit. The wall panels over the rear doors were pretty easy to make. I used 3 pieces of 1/4 inch plywood for this and call it the mustache. The wall panels over the sliding door were more of a challenge and required some thinking. They were constructed so each piece kind of held the other in place. Lots of angle cuts were required as well as framing to make a solid connection. This was one of the jobs I let my helper, another Mike from New York, do. Not the California Mike, because he had a solution. This freed me up to do other work that had to be done. I really liked Mike's solution. The area above the sliding door was a challenge for many self-builds. You will notice that both the wall panel over the rear door and the wall panel over the sliding door both made use of the original cargo interior lights. A lot of my solar stuff came in yesterday, and today I'm getting the panels, so who knows, and maybe I'll install them, but I think I could install the panels by myself. Now that probably constitutes for one of the craziest things I ever said. Trust me, you need help to install solar panels on the roof of a van. It seems like it's been quite a time since I did a video. I thought maybe I should. This is the 16th day in a row that I started working on the van again. First day was a Saturday with Joe. 16 days in a row. Solar panels are on. Max fan is installed. 2 windows, 1 on each side. This wall is totally complete all the way to the ceiling. Some of my insulation on the ceiling is done. You can see the wires over here coming down for the solar panels. Over here to the right, you see fiberglass insulation. So bottom panels in, little outlet here in case I ever need some electric in the back of the van. Panels in place. all this panel's cut out. I have 2 panels in the front that are cut out. You can see all my wires hanging. That's where all the electric will be, in the middle of the van. It's what's going to work. My arm, back to my arm. It still hurts. It's probably a lot better than it was. I don't know if it's ever going to get better, but it almost feels like if you're cold and you get slapped really hard in that area and it stings, it's almost like that, but not quite. So anyhow, I'm here working, sun shining on me, nice day, around 70-some degrees. I think I'm going to need help, but there's days when I work here and I can work by myself, and then I get everything I could get done, so when I get help, I could get stuff done. I've worked out of the 16 days. I've had help on 7 days. Most number of people were here were 2 or 3 during a day. Family has helped me out. So things are moving along in the van. Hopefully, it'll get done this year. I'm really hoping. Well, I haven't done a video in a little while, so I thought it might be a good time to do another video. Maybe that's all I should do today, because I'm pretty tired. This is day 21 of the build. I've worked 20 days in a row straight. Some of those days till 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the evening. And on a computer 6:30 in the morning. On a computer after I'm done working. No, not a lot of breaks. It's been pretty hard. I got to tell you though, I wish somebody would have told me that I was crazy for even thinking of doing this job. My arm is getting a little better. I noticed a big change yesterday. It's still not maybe 50% is where it's at right now, so it's getting better. Less pain, less problems. If you look here, you can see all my panels are completed. They're in place. This job, I just wish it's very taxing to the body. It's so much work, so much thinking, so much hands-on, so much different than anything I've ever done. And I know I've done houses and everything, and I haven't done them in a while, but still in a house, everything is square. Everything is wood to wood usually, or something similar. This thing is so many different kind of screws, so many different kind of forms, so many corners and round areas, and nothing is square. It's like, oh boy. I may decide to paint these panels today. I'm going to paint them white. I ate breakfast, had coffee. Oh, by the way, coffee is a drug. That takes you from feeling beat up to feeling pretty good in 5 minutes. My daughter came over to help me prime and paint the wall panels. She was pretty busy, so I asked her not to come, but she insisted that I shouldn't be doing the painting by myself. I'm so happy she was there because it made it a fun time instead of work. We primed the walls with Kills oil-based white primer that I purchased at Home Depot. It was a good thing she was involved in the painting because she made me think and make a decision about the color, as originally I was going to paint the walls white. The next day we painted the wall panels with top-of-the-line Behr paint from Home Depot. The color we used was a shade of yellow called September Morning. I'd call it a happy color. Here I am, my life in 75 square feet, and it's getting closer and closer. Stay tuned. I'll do some more videos in the future, and hopefully you'll see some progress. Have a good day. Bye.